Jay here for Stretford, Paddock, and this is Off the Bar, sponsored by Green King. Joining me, as always, is Joe Smith. Are you buzzing that I got that right? I can see the grin on your face, how happy you are that I got the name of the show right, because I have been known to get it wrong. And we've got a great guest with us today. We've got Arsenal and Everton legend, and Forest legend, and Trabzonspor legend, Kevin Campbell. How are we doing, Kev?
I'm good, thanks, Jay. Hi, Jace, you're right.
Yeah. We've got loads to discuss. We'll talk about, obviously, the game coming up at the Emirates this weekend, a big game for both Arsenal and Manchester United. But I just wanted to give you get your take on the season so far and what the expectations are from an Arsenal point of view, because you obviously had that very good season last season. At one point, it looked like you were on for the league. Yeah. You were flying, but then unfortunately, from a United point of view as well as an Arsenal point of view, City went kicked
you know
off.
What? I don't think, unfortunately, because our rivalry is so hot.
Well, this is it, actually. There's a few United fans who were probably like...
Some United fans I knew wanted Arsenal not to do it.
No,
they wanted City to win.
I wasn't there.
I don't think... I know the rivalry, obviously, United City is there, but the rivalry with Arsenal's hot, man, and it goes back a long way. Yeah. So I know some United fans who were like, I don't, because I don't think they thought City would do the treble. I just thought they'd say, I don't want Arsenal.
Yeah, no, we had this discussion, didn't we?
Because they're a nightmare.
Where were you on that? You were...
I flipped halfway through the season.
He was like, I'd rather City because Arsenal fans are too much.
Up until about February, and then I saw City in the Champions League, and I thought, actually, they were stealing everything. Yeah. They were just smashing everyone in the Champions League. I thought, we need Arsenal to stop them doing the treble here. And once that was in my head, like exactly how you just framed it then I was like, right, Arsenal got to win it. And by that point, if they'd already started to slip, it was the Liverpool game and all that toward the end of the season.
Yeah, after last season, obviously, going into the new season, Arsenal needed to buy.
Yeah.
I thought they'd done really good business. Season starts, Timber's injured, which was a tough one to take in pre-season. He looked really good. But like anything, if you've spent that sort of money, you've got to be around it at the end. If Arsenal are not around it at the end, then it's going to be, that's a poor season.
Well, I want to ask you about that, because I made this point a few weeks ago, and I got a lot of stick from Arsenal fans, funnily enough, because the bit that was clipped up was a compressed version of it. But the point I made is, when Solskjaer was United's manager, we finished third, and then we finished second. And everyone was going, we're overachieving, Solskjaer's doing great. But then all of a sudden you finish second and you go, the only way we can really improve here is to win the league. Yeah. The only, obviously there's other ways you can improve, but the only positional improvement you can make is to win the league. And I think once we started to falter that season, Solskjaer got a lot of pressure on him and ended up getting sacked because all of a sudden the expectation goes from let's try and get Europe, which is what it was for Arsenal last season and the year before, to you probably need to try and win the league now. Do you think that Arteta's got way more pressure on him this year than he did at the start of last year, even though it's a lot of the same players, a lot of the same squad? Now people kind of expect him to go out and try and win the league.
100%. Well, listen, when you're at Manchester United or you're at Arsenal, the pressure's there. Yeah. You spend over 200 million quid, all of a sudden the expectation level goes up. So for me, the pressure's on Arteta. He's got to manage now. Arsenal being in the Champions League as well. Yeah. That's another new thing for him. Although they're in the Europa, this is where all the players want to play. In the Europa, you want to take a Thursday off sometimes. Now it's the Champions League. Going to find out, obviously, this week who they got. Everyone wants to play in the Champions League, so he's got to manage a squad, and this is going to be difficult for him. But this is why you invest the money.
One player we brought in I want to ask you about is Kai Havertz, because these lads here...
It's kicking off already.
These lads here, right, I've had a little bet. Producer Ethan and Joe, tell us about your little bet you've had with each other about Kai Havertz at Arsenal. We'll get your take of it. You know about scoring goals for Arsenal, so you're the perfect person to ask.
Kai Havertz, obviously, basically, me and Ethan bet. Ethan said that Kai Havertz would score 16 league goals this season. 16 league goals this season. And I said he wouldn't. And I think that...
So if he scored 12...
I win a fiver.
Yeah, but... 12 is still good from a midfielder, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Kai Havertz, to be fair, it's Arsenal fans as well, so I feel like I can say this. He's had a lot of crap already this season, hasn't he? It's 3 games in.
He hasn't even kicked a ball, Jay. And they were like on it. But Arsenal fans, let me just tell you this. Arsenal fans have a history of this. Yeah. They've done it with Ben White. They've done it with Ramsdale. They've done it with a few players now, but they never learn. Yeah. The guy's played 3 games, 2 wins and 1 draw, and they're after him. Yeah. Time will tell. Class always will come to the top. I remember you guys having a player called Berbatov, who everybody used to say, oh, his body language, this, his body language, that. What a player he was.
He was good.
So you've got to give people time. You've got to give people time, especially where we got him from Chelsea. Because the love lost, there's no love lost between Arsenal and Chelsea.
Yeah, we know that one. We got Mason Mount off Chelsea as well, but unfortunately for us, he's got injured and we're having a little bit of a time with injuries, which I'll get to in a minute. Just on the squad you've got, the players you brought in, Arteta now, he's been there a little while. I know City are flying, but did you feel like he could push City this season again?
I think I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
Jay, if I'm honest with you, Jesus picked up a little injury first, but he's just coming back now, which you need Jesus back. I think you need Jesus to have a stellar season. You need Jesus to hit 15, 20 league goals this season to really go. Saka's got to hit the ground running again. Martinelli's got to hit the ground. There was a lot of players who shared the goals out. And if you can add 10, 12 to 15 from a Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, you're going to need him to score 5. Because that City machine is hard to stop because they get that Haaland, he's a monster, mate. He's a monster and he's a goal machine. And they're going to just keep creating. So the likes of us, our teams are going to have to get goals from other places.
Do you see Arsenal as the main rivals to Manchester City? I know it's early, but we're being honest, aren't we?
No, we have to. Listen, we have to look at ourselves, both our clubs, and say we have to be there or thereabouts. Arsenal finished second, United finished third. We've got to be there or thereabouts. No messing around because you're not progressing otherwise. You've got to be going that extra mile now. And obviously for you guys, there's talk of a takeover. If you got that takeover money, then it would be maybe a different story. Ten Hag could move and shake a bit more. Probably hasn't been able to move and shake as much as he would like. Arteta has. But now it comes to the problem where you've got to get people out the door. So whereas City have got years on us. They've just been stacking and stacking and stacking. So we have to be challengers, and now we play each other on Sunday. So early one, but that's it.
We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to talk about the Arsenal United game this Sunday because already it's one that's filling me with a bit of dread, if I'm being honest with you, especially with our away record. Our away record's terrible. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask you as well about one of your other clubs, Everton, because I was telling you before, a few of my family are Toffees, my in-laws are Toffees, and they're having a bit of a time of it, aren't they?
Having a tough time of it. Do you know what, Jay? I will say this. It does look doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And if you remember correctly, 2 seasons ago, Arsenal started exactly the same way. Right. No goals, no points, no shots at goal. And this was with Aubameyang and all that in the team. Everton are creating chances. The one problem is, which is the most important thing, they're not putting them away. They need somebody who can put them away. Just made a new signing, Beto. I've got to say, I don't know the player. But if he can come in and help, then Everton will be fine. I've got no worries of Everton being fine if they can find someone to stick the ball away. If they don't, they're in for another tough season.
It's mad with Everton, isn't it?
Going back, you went there and saved them basically. Was it 9 goals in 8 games when you was on loan there? But they seem to do this quite a lot. This cycle of being right in the trouble and then either changing the manager or someone comes in and helps them out because I know it's only early days. It's 3 games in, and I do think Sean Dyche is a decent manager, but already looking at it going, could be in a bit of trouble here.
They do this thing though, don't they, where Everton are a club that's big enough in stature and size that they should, in their heads they have this thing, and rightly so, where they go every sort of 10 years or so they have a big push to try and, we've got to try and be a top 4 team now.
Yeah.
We're probably the 5th or 6th biggest team in England, and yet we're never doing like the Leicester thing where they win a league, or we're never doing, what other teams do. Tottenham have now cemented themselves as a sort of top 6 team, and Everton kind of oscillate between Europe and relegation.
Steady on. Not too sure about that. Well, not too sure about that.
But you know what I mean? It's like
I'm not too sure about that.
Unfortunately, I think Tottenham, they do tend to finish in Europe more than they don't.
No, they have. They have.
Yeah, solid. But Everton, they should be doing that. So they have these big pushes where they'll spend a load of money, they'll get a bigger manager in, they'll almost get there, and then they'll collapse way down, and then they have to rebuild for 3 or 4 years, and they do it again. And it's like we're seeing the bottom of that curve at the minute,
Jay,
where
that's a good
they did all the stuff with Ancelotti.
Jay, that's a good point. And one thing I will add to that is when you look at the people who run the club, because you need a foundation. Whatever you do, you need a foundation. United's foundation has been, they always bring academy players through. Fantastic. Where's Everton's? Everton's ones that came through, they've sold.
Yeah.
Gordon sold him to Newcastle for whatever. So they seem to. I remember they when Moshiri came in, they've spent over 500-600 million quid. They bought 3 number 10s in one window. What's going on? Yeah. Stuff like that. You bring in Marcel Brands, who has a great knowledge of young, up-and-coming footballers around Europe. He should be recruiting all the best youngsters. And yeah, it may take 2-3 years to actually get them going. But he wasn't allowed to do his job. So then you have to look upstairs. And it's very difficult when you look at people who are running the club, and everyone has to be accountable. You look at people who run the club and the club's struggling, and then you look at them and you think, and they turn around and say, things are going great. It's not going great because you got no foundation. You build it on sand, it can't stand up. So I believe this is why Sean Dyche is in now. Sean Dyche is in there to try and get a foundation in, to try and work with what he's got. Has to work with what he's got. There ain't a lot of money flying around, and there's as you know, there's a possible problem with the Premier League up and coming, maybe. So who knows what's going on behind there? The fans are upset with Bill Kenwright. They want change in the boardroom. There's been a couple of change in the boardroom. United want a bit of change in the boardroom as well.
I can sympathise with that.
So whether you're United or you're Everton, there's still that problem at the club that you just want it smoothed out, don't you?
It always makes it worse as well when your rivals. Everton have had support with Liverpool recently and winning trophies. We've had support with City. It makes it worse, doesn't it? Of course, when you're looking at these clubs down the road, winning things, challenging for titles, challenging in Europe.
Everything going smooth.
Yeah, and you're sat here going, what's going on with our club? Why have we wasted hundreds of millions of pounds? Why have we not got a squad that's good enough to challenge at the top? So I do sympathise with Evertonians. I really do. We speak to a few of the lads.
I was going to say, at the start of last season, before Ten Hag, or just as Ten Hag came in, I remember doing a preview with the Everton fan channel, and all the stuff they were saying was like, this is what we've been saying about United's owners and how they've wasted money in these contracts and how they've, and not invested in the ground and this, that, and the other. And I thought that's like the same as United, but just on a slightly smaller scale. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, there is, and it is pretty grim. But we'll see what happens. Another of your ex-clubs, Forest.
Yeah.
It's a good time to get you on, actually. Because
especially after the weekend.
Yeah, we just played each other.
We need to chat about this.
And it was a pretty uneventful game. Not much went down in it. Not much happened. Pretty boring, really.
Yeah, it was.
As always, we are pleased to say that Off the Bar is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. If you didn't know, Green King Sport will be showing every single televised Manchester United game this season. And with over 900 pubs across the country, whether you're in Milton Keynes, Macclesfield, Mansfield, Mablethorpe or Manchester, you can keep up to date with Manchester United wherever you are. Keep an eye out for events, offers, content and competitions that will let you stay closer than ever to the action. And it's a big game this Sunday, as we know, Manchester United versus Arsenal, something Kev Campbell knows all about. And if you aren't going to the Emirates and you can't check it out there, why not check it out at your local Green King Sport pub?
Big talking point after the game was the penalty and the red card. I think Forest have put in a complaint to the Premier League, the Referees Association, PGMO, innit?
PGMO.
Yeah, about the performance of Stuart Atwell, the referee. They felt they were hard done by. You know our thoughts on it. I don't need to tell you. I thought he had a fantastic game. And
it's a Stonewaller, wasn't it?
Stonewall red, Stonewall penalty. What did you feel about the decisions?
I thought the sending off was right.
Yeah.
The penalty, I didn't think was a penalty.
Right.
But I have seen them given.
Right.
One of those ones, I've seen them given. I'll tell you why I've seen them given, because there was some contact.
Yeah.
he didn't fully go through with the challenge, which I think Rashford knew he was coming. Yeah. He knew the challenge was coming, but he kind of held his leg back, but there was a bit of contact. As a Forest man, I would say that's never a penalty. if it was Forest, I would say that's a definite penalty. Yeah. So I get it. It's at Old Trafford.
Like, can we just start? Right, one thing.
No. Hold on. This is the truth.
Go on.
It's at Old Trafford, and this is what your home ground is supposed to do. It's supposed to put pressure on referees. Yeah. Yeah. This is what it's for. Why does everybody shout when penalty and then the referee's got a decision to make? Yeah, it can go to VAR, but you can check. Was there contact? There was some contact, so they said it's a penalty. But if you're Forest, you could see if that was against you, you would be fuming.
That's a fair point, because I genuinely do think it's a penalty. I think it was contact there. He knocks his leg into it. Yeah. I mean, I was doing what you're talking about. I was at the other end of the ground, and I'm blind. I can barely see the telly that's behind the cameras, can I?
Yeah.
And I was like, penalty straight away. Yeah. Like, straight away I was on it. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty fair comment.
It's one of them, I think, that if he hadn't have given it, it wouldn't have been overturned. But because he had, it wasn't going to get overturned the other way. There was some contact. I think it was a penalty. If you're sprinting and you're trying to go past someone and they put the leg across you, you're going to go down. There was contact. But it wasn't, he didn't clear him out. But I think the fact that it had so much debate around it, because like you said there was contact and he went down.
There was some contact,
it's not a disgrace by any means.
And even the Forest players didn't react.
Yeah, but I just feel like
but you see, when you watch it after, you got the slow-mo and you got everything. When it's at match speed, it looks like does look like a slow penalty. I don't like that.
You know when they slow things down sometimes? Because sometimes they slow it down or they stop it at a frame.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he tried to stitch up Sabitzer, where it looked like he stamped on someone? He didn't. He just barely touched them.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't, to be fair, that wasn't VAR. That was just social media. But sometimes you slow things down, it looks
a lot worse.
Handballs as well always look bad on slow mo because it looks like they've got loads of time to move their arm out the way. Why did you leave the arm there? And it's like, well, actually,
so
this
here's a question for you guys. So against Wolves, was that a penalty?
100%. Yeah.
But you see, but that's.
But I think, to be honest with you, I don't know, but maybe the Spurs game was sort of making up for that, because I think that was a penalty.
Well, there's probably two.
Yeah. I think Onana should have been.
Yeah.
There's one for each in the Spurs game.
But there was the Onana one. I mean, he's wiped him out, really.
Yeah.
Looked at it. I wasn't at the game for that. I was away, so I was watching it in a pub. But I was like, he's wiped him out. I thought that's going to be a penalty. And then when he walked over, I thought he was going to give it
the VAR.
But he was giving Gary O'Neill. Gary O'Neill was
walking over.
Oh my God!
I was like,
that's it.
They're not going to overturn it.
You give it all that. Oh my God!
If he looks at the screen and sees that, he's going to give it. And he wasn't. He was booking their manager, which was hilarious.
But it was bizarre, wasn't it? After this week as well, with Mike Dean's comments. I'm sure you saw those. Did you see those, Jay?
Yeah, the ones about he didn't want to hurt his mate Anthony Taylor. Yeah. Because just give a bit of context.
Yeah. So Mike Dean, obviously now retired referee, probably the most famous referee of the Premier League era. Yeah. Certainly, almost
certainly last 10
infamous.
Years, I think. Yeah.
Basically, did a podcast where he said in the past he's not sent Anthony Taylor to the screen to check a decision because he thought if he had to overturn the decision, that would make Anthony Taylor get a lot of criticism.
Because it was a Chelsea game.
Was that Chelsea Spurs, London Derby? Yeah. Cucurella got fouled, didn't he?
Yeah.
Got his hair pulled.
Yeah.
And
he didn't give it. And then instead of sending him to the screen to overturn his decision, he sort of let him off with it. And Mike Dean said, I probably should have sent him to the screen, but I thought it would give him more stick than he was already going to get. And he's a friend of mine. He's not just a colleague, he's a friend.
He's a mate.
He's a mate.
That's what
and
you're
like, well, what is the point in this then? What's the point in bringing in video assistant referee? What's the point in having a third official, a fourth official, a linesman, a this, that, the other, when all it comes down to is I didn't want to hurt my mate's feelings, so I gave a wrong decision. It's all a waste of time.
That's him not doing his job.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
That's him not doing his job at the end of the day. And listen, you could look out for your mate, of course you can, but when it comes to making a key decision, and by the way, that was a key decision because it was 2-1 at the time. They pulled Cucurella's hair, didn't give it. Corner came in. Harry Kane scored to make it 2-2. Do you remember at the end? Conte and
Tuchel. Is that the
fighting?
Handshake?
Yeah,
the handshake. They won't let go.
Going at it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But that was all caused by Dean.
We've got the exact quote here, so I'll give it you. He said, So it says here, I missed the stupid hair pull at Chelsea versus Tottenham, which was pathetic from my point of view. It's one of them where if I had my time again, what would I do? I'd send Anthony to the screen. I said to Anthony afterwards, meaning Anthony Taylor, of course, I just didn't want to send you on the screen after what has gone on in the game. I didn't want to send him up because he's a mate as well as a referee, and I think I didn't want to send him up because I didn't want any more grief than he already had. So, I mean, that is just going to infuriate people.
But also the logic there is so insane, because I see referees getting a lot more stick from not overturning a decision that maintains a bad decision than when they go, we got it wrong and we overturned it. I don't even see them getting stick for that.
No.
Not going to the screen makes you look far worse as a refereeing unit than, I made a mistake, I missed it, and we've now corrected it. So even the logic there.
Yeah, why not just check?
There's nothing wrong with missing something. If you don't see it, you don't see it.
If you don't see it, you don't see it. So you're right, Jay.
Yeah.
But why not just check? Send him to the screen, just have a look. Yeah. And if he could always say, no, that's not enough. And that's fair enough. But to say that it's a dereliction of duty, he's not doing his job, and I wonder how many bets that result messed up.
That's the thing as well, isn't it? There's obviously the repercussions for the teams involved. People might have had money on the game. There's the fans themselves just being genuinely...
Last game on a Sunday, that was as well. So you could imagine somebody probably had... that were waiting on a Chelsea win.
Also, little things like Thomas Tuchel, how long was he in the job for after that? 6 weeks?
Yeah, he got sacked not long after
I know, and I'm not saying it was that result, but if you have 2 or 3 of these decisions in a season or in an early part of a season, that might be the difference between Thomas Tuchel still being at Chelsea or not. Like, it's easy to overestimate these things, but big losses in, it matters, London derbies do matter.
They do matter, so you don't want to see that, and I think it just adds more sort of distrust towards the referees, like you say, as a refereeing unit. Go on, and we'll get into it. We'll talk about this game. I'm already dreading, I ain't going to lie to you. Manchester United travelling to the Emirates this weekend. United, who've had a pretty up and down start to the season. 2 wins at home, which is par for the course for us. Losing away at Spurs. Arsenal have had a okay start, good sort of. Was it the first 2 wins and then a draw? Was it so far?
2 wins and a draw. Yeah.
The draw against Fulham.
Yeah, but you know what? Arsenal ain't playing outstandingly well.
Yeah.
But they've been getting the results.
Yeah.
And against Fulham, Christmas come early, give away, an early goal in the first minute. Play their way back in, get their noses in front, and really against 10 men you expect Arsenal. But it's early season. These things can happen. Arsenal don't defend the corner well, and Fulham peg them back. Again, another London derby. There's a lot riding on these London derbies, as you well know. But Sunday's the big one.
Yeah.
Our rivalry.
This is the big one.
Our rivalry is the Premier League, really, isn't it? Our rivalry has been the Premier League for donkey's years. So everybody wants to win this. I always say to myself, when Arsenal come up here, I remember a depleted Manchester United side, and I was sat in the Stretford end with some friends.
Right.
And they said, we're not looking forward to this. I said, Arsenal never have an easy game at Old Trafford. And some guy called Marcus Rashford came up trumps that day. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And done us 3-1. Yeah. He scored 2 goals that day.
Yeah.
It was sensational that day. And there is never any easy games because there's that much riding on our rivalry. So do I think I want Arsenal to win? I think Arsenal will win. But it wouldn't surprise me if Manchester United... This is the game that they're going to be up for.
Yeah, Joe, United's record away from home against the top 8 is under Ten Hag is abysmal. I like to say it Ten Hag, but you can't defend it when it's 1 draw and then we've lost the rest.
It's genuinely astonishingly bad.
It's so bad,
especially when you see all these stats at the same time of like most points accrued after 40 games as a manager in the Premier League, and Ten Hag is like 3 points behind Guardiola. You look at most points won in the league this year. Only City have got more points than United so far this year. Like, you look at all these stats, and then somehow at the same time, we literally never beat anyone in the top 7 away from home. We've never done it under Ten Hag.
And also, the one time we got a point against the team was Spurs. We've now lost to them away from home.
Yeah, and also, that game, we were 2-0 up with about 20 minutes to go.
So even the point was a bad point because it should have been a win. So
it's
that record,
unbelievable.
I don't know, do you think, Kev, that sometimes it can be a bit psychological? Can this get in players' heads if you've got this record, or do you think it's just one of those things?
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things. Listen, playing for United, every game's such a big game. Arsenal, every game's such a big game. These boys are used to playing with that pressure. Yeah. The problem is, you got to perform. Yeah. And you guys, just like Arsenal, you guys have had the teams who have been able to do that week in, week out for donkey's years, winning trophies, being that top team. We both know what it feels like. Does it feel like that right now? Not quite. But the key is to try and get there. And it's tough. You've got injuries. We've got injuries. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough to try and make up that ground, especially when your neighbours are so dominant.
What was it like for you? Because obviously you spoke earlier about the United-Arsenal rivalry going back years. I remember, everyone remembers as well. Not everyone, but I think it was around late 80s, early 90s, that battle at Old Trafford.
That at Old Trafford.
Brawl, a 21-man brawl.
Yeah. I was in the stand that day. I was in the stand and it was kicking off in the stand. It was kicking off everywhere. I'll never forget it. But it's the size of Manchester United. I'm a London boy. Yeah. The size of Manchester United. Arsenal are in the capital, biggest club in London against the arguably one of the biggest clubs in the world. And you meet, and that United side, very experienced side. You look at it. You look at the players that were on that pitch that day. Some big names, some legends are about. They don't want to give an inch, and that's the way it is with our rivalry. Nobody wants to give an inch. So I was in the stand trying to get on the pitch. You can imagine it.
That's all they needed.
Sit down. It was brilliant.
Players coming out of the stands.
The fans are like, you sit down. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It was crazy, man. I remember as a kid watching it as a kid, I was like, what is going on here? And I think one person, Nigel Winterburn got booked and that was it.
Oh,
yeah. A 21-man brawl. Did George Graham after that, or when you played United, did he say to you, lot, was there a bit of an added thing there to you, or was he just like that?
No, but we knew what to expect.
Yeah.
When United come to town, especially come down to London, because there's so many Man United fans in London as well, the Cockney Reds, etc. We know how big a game it is. And you want to hold serve, especially at your place, you want to hold serve. You don't want United coming down and turning you over at your place, just like you don't want Arsenal coming up from London, turn you over at OT. So it was always something that was inbuilt in the players, always inbuilt in the players to get one over on your rival. That was what it was all about.
I think that's the one thing that's really lacking now, and that's the one thing we need to see. Because if I did have one criticism of Everton, and I do like him as manager, it's I don't feel truly like we've won a game where we're not expected to win it. Almost, I expect us to win all our home games. Yeah. You might call me naive. I expect us to beat City at home.
No,
I expect us to beat Barcelona at home. Yeah. I think at Old Trafford we should beat everyone. I think there's certain grounds you go to where City or Anfield or Arsenal, you go, okay, we're probably not favourites for this, but maybe we can get some. But we never do, and that's the one thing I think we've got to sort out as the manager's got to sort out, and the team and the club have got to sort out, because you can't just not get any points from your rivals away. You have to pick up the odd win or the odd draw at least. And this is a good opportunity now, early on in the season. Yes, United have got injuries, but like you saying, Arsenal missing some players. Have looked a little bit vulnerable against Fulham. I know it's the circumstances behind it, but what about you, Joe? Do you feel any confidence in this, or do you feel like because we were talking earlier about pre-season? I know it's pre-season, but pre-season we played Arsenal. It's probably our best performance pre-season. Yeah. We're looking great. Kobe Manu was looking great. Some of the other players were. And then since then, it's been a bit like up and down at the best.
This thing of United not winning any games away from home against the top teams is a bit of a worry. And I know that, like you said, it's maybe more likely to be a coincidence. But at some point, you start to go, well, how many times can it be a coincidence? Like that stat of Spanish teams haven't lost a European final to a non-Spanish team since like 1991 or something ridiculous. Like every time it's and at first you think, well, that's just coincidence, but eventually you start to see, no, it's the way they approach it, this, that and the other, and it is an actual thing. I don't want to see the rest of the season go by like last season, where we get to the end of the year and it's 1 draw, 26 losses away from home against the top seven. That can't be a thing, because there's Ten Hag took over a team that was absolutely failing, under Rangnick and Solskjaer. And he upped the expectation and improved. Now the expectation, like you said, has to be occasionally you go to the Emirates and you get a win, or you get a draw at City, or you win at Anfield. Like that needs to happen. I just worry that the players are still a lot of the ones from last season. We still have a crumble in us. When you look at United, what do you see the 6-3 at the Etihad, the 7-0 at Anfield? Does it seem like a team that is sort of got like a bit of an armour, but underneath that, it's quite soft still, isn't it?
I'll be honest with you. When I watch those games that you mentioned, Joe, I was surprised. Manchester United going to Anfield. Listen, that's war.
Yeah.
Let's have it right. Going to the Etihad, that's war.
Yeah.
And then the way it turned out was like, that's not United. That's not United that I know. Yeah. I've grown up around, etc. But sometimes it's going to take a little bit of time. And I know fans don't want to hear this. It's hard.
I want it now.
I know.
Yeah.
But as a fan now,
Yeah.
you want it now. It takes a bit of time. The great thing you had in the past was you had players who were homegrown. They knew what the rivalry meant. They'd scrap for their life. It don't matter. They'll put the tackles in. Who cares? Now, it's about who's playing good football. No, it's not about, when you go to Anfield, it's not about who's playing good football. Can you put your will onto them?
Yeah.
And that's what I don't see United do enough away from home. I think they've got quality players, but it's here.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. The fans want it here, but it's here for the players. The players maybe don't have it upstairs sometimes, and that's what they need.
Let's get a couple of predictions from you, Kev, before we wrap up. What do you think Arsenal will do this season? Can you see Arteta winning a trophy? Do you think
He's got to.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, Jay.
Yeah.
He's got to win a trophy. I don't want Man City winning 4 in a row.
Yeah.
I can't have it.
You're not alone here.
We can all agree on that.
Right, we could agree on that, right?
Jesus.
Listen, Arsenal, as far as I'm concerned, Arsenal have to win the league. Will they? I don't know, because Manchester City is difficult to usurp. But Arsenal they've got the players. They've got to win. They've got to win silverware. People say, did Arsenal have a better season than United? Like, no, they didn't, because United won silverware.
I'm glad you're saying that, because I agree with that.
But it's true. You've got to win silverware. Yeah. I'm old school. Do you know what? When you see that team picture and there's that pot in front of you, you've done something right. Qualifying for the Champions League was a good step for Arsenal, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Now, it's about silverware.
Do you think if they don't win any silverware this season, where would that leave Arteta, do you think? Because this his 4th full season now?
Yeah, it depends what type of season Arsenal's at. Because you know what? Arteta can go and not win. He might get to a final or semi-final and not win anything and just miss out on the league or and it's like, we're that close. It can happen.
Klopp did it when he got to the Champions League final.
And
people started believing in him.
People start believing
he's the right guy.
If Arsenal don't go deep in cups and Arsenal flop in the Champions League and in the league they're wandering, those Arsenal fans are going to be calling for his head.
Yeah,
I can tell you that much.
I've seen it, haven't we, before?
Yeah,
when things started going a bit south for Wenger, and he was still picking up FA Cups.
Big time.
Winning trophies.
Not good enough,
and they were like, well, what are you
enough.
doing in the league? You're not doing anything. So, the Wenger out banners were out. And just one final prediction this weekend.
I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
I still think injuries, but it's still going to be a close game. Arsenal just a shade. Same score as last year, 3-2.
3-2.
3-2 Arsenal.
I can't do that. No, seriously.
Can't be conceding another 3.
Can't be another 3-2 on the wrong way around as well. Just had a 3-2. Winning 3-2 was bad enough at the weekend. Hey, that was that all over the place. Let alone losing 3-2 at the Emirates. Kev, always a pleasure chatting to you, bro. Top man. Thanks for coming on the channel.
Great to meet you.
Nice one.
Yeah, and I would say good luck this weekend, but obviously I don't want to wish you good luck.
What's your prediction? Don't leave me.
I thought we got away with that one. I thought we got away with that one. We're going to save it for our preview, Kev. We don't do that. Go on, what do you reckon?
I think a draw.
Yeah.
And that might just be, I know maybe I should be predicting a win, but I'd take a 1-1. I think a draw away from home against the top sides and beat him at home, I think that's decent. So yeah, 1-1.
I
can see that little corners of his mouth.
He wants to win.
Yeah. Corners of his mouth in there.
I'm going to go with a United win with another dubious penalty. And that one wasn't dubious, the Forest one. I'm having that as a penalty, but a VAR decision as Arsenal fans raging.
Hey, you got one at Old Trafford last year. Don't worry about that.
That was a foul on Eriksen.
I was like, what?
Oh, wait, it's another one. What?
I know.
But again,
where's
at Old
getting that
Trafford,
from?
you put pressure on.
This is it, man.
It
this
does
is what you
work.
got to
It
do.
does.
So, you Arsenal fans watching, because I suspect there'll be a lot of Arsenal fans watching this because you're on it. Yeah, you got to put pressure on the referees, and don't worry if it happens. We'll be moaning about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big thanks to Kev for coming on the channel. Joe, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Big thank you to Green King as well, sponsoring it. This has been Off the Bar, sponsored by Green King. I've been Joe. I've been Jay Motty. Get my name right. Thanks for watching.